Sweet. Some of the other stuff I want to show is hooks. So someone asked a question about how do we get like notifications, or how do we know when something happens on a collection, like, and then respond to it. Well, Mongooses' answer to that is hooks. So we can hook into, or actually they call them middleware. I call them hooks, but the official name is called middleware. So what you can do is you can add middleware into different events that happen on the collection. And pretty much an event is like pretty much any operation that can happen. You do a find one and delete, a save, a remove, all those different types of operations you can do on a model. You can either tie into them before they happen or after they happen. And they can be synchronous or asynchronous. And you can even control the order of when they happen. And that's what the middleware allows you to do. So it's actually, middleware by itself is really advanced, but I was going to show you some of the stuff that you can do. So for instance, if I wanted to run middleware before I created a school, before it was actually saved in the database, I want to run some middleware. What I could do is I could use the same schema object that we created from mongoose.schema, and then what I can do is I can say school.pre. So if I do pre, and then I pass in the name of the event that I want to subscribe to, I'm going to say pre-save, I can run some functionality in here. So in this case, I'm just going to say console.log in before save. Save. There we go. So I'm just going to do that. And none of our school stuff is unique or required, so I can just run the same code and we should still see it. So I'm going to get rid of these other logs. And still going to save it. So if I run this, you can see I get a log before save. So this happened before the actual document was saved. This did not happen before the validation. If we have validations on the document and I was trying to fix them inside of the save, it would still fail because validations run before save. There's another hook for that, and that's pre-validate. So if you want to run things before Mongoose validates anything, you can say, oh, before you validate anything, let me do my validation first, and then you can do your thing. So this is like a great place to do like advanced custom validations and stuff like that. And again, pretty much for almost any operation that you can do on a model, there's a hook for it, so, or a middleware for it. So if you want to do before find one, you can say before find one. And whenever the find one query runs, it's going to run this function first. If you want to do one before find one and remove, you can add that. Almost any operation, you can do that. There's some small gotchas between querying and updating and how that works and what you would get. But it's very minute, and you just have to look in the documentation of what those small ones are, because it really depends on how your stuff is set up. But basically, you either might get a reference to a document as this, or you might get a reference to the update that's coming in. It really depends on how you structure your application. And those are the only things. But just to be safe, don't use arrow functions, just use regular functions to make sure that the binding is correct. So that's for pre. For post, it's mostly the same thing. So I can do post save. And I can say after save, check this out. So I'm going to do this. And then boom, after save, it ran. So these were just synchronous middleware functions. You can also do asynchronous. So if you want to do asynchronous, then, and if you're just doing like saves and reads, then you're going to get like 2 arguments. So you'll probably get like the document as the first argument, and I believe you'll get this other one called next, or actually I think next is the only one you'll get. So you'll get next as one argument like this, and then now you can do like asynchronous stuff in here. So if I wanted to say, let's just do a set timeout here. So we'll say set timeout for like 300, and then we'll do a console.log. And then we'll say next as in we're done. So next is a function that you have to say, all right, I'm finally done. You can go on to the next middleware in the stack, because you can stack up these middleware, and whenever you create them, that's the order they're going to be executed. So saying next is saying go to the next middleware, I'm done now. And that's what that function's for. So if you ever use middleware in like Express or any other server framework, it's very much the same way. It's just saying go to the next middleware that's registered. because there's nothing stopping me from making another school.post save. I can do that again. There's nothing stopping me from doing it, but this one will run first, then this one. And this is saying, all right, I'm done, go to the next one, but not before I do 300 milliseconds. So we'll do that, run this. Okay, yeah, I had it right the first time. So doc will be the first argument, and then next would be the next argument. Doc is going to be the instance of the document itself. So if I said doc, like that. There we go. So now we have a post save. It waited 300 milliseconds, and then I logged out the document, which was the first argument. And actually, I'll just make that a little longer so we can actually see it, because like that happened kind of fast. There we go. So that means you can do asynchronous stuff in here, which means you can do other database stuff inside of this middleware, which is really helpful, and that's actually what you're going to be doing next. So we had a question earlier. It was like, well, if we're doing these associations and I delete something, but now the model that's referring to something that's deleted, how do I clean that up? And you would do it in this middleware. So if you delete something, you need to go query the database for all the things that are referencing it and delete the reference too, or whatever you do there. So this is where you would do that. Or this is where I would do it. I'm sure you can do it somewhere else, but this is what this is built for. Any questions on middleware? Yes.
Did we have to do anything to denote that it was going to be asynchronous, or did just?
Yeah, I was wondering if somebody was going to ask that question. Yeah, it's kind of crazy how that works. So Node, a lot of libraries, what they do is they can, basically the short answer is they look at like if you ask for the argument. If you ask for 2 arguments, they know it's async. That's what they do. So if you say, I asked for 2 arguments, so therefore it's async. If I only ask for 1 argument, it won't be async. So they look at the like arity of the arguments. I don't really like that style of programming. I don't know why people do that in JavaScript, but it's like something people used to do back in the day, and it's just like carrying over. I really don't like that. I like to just be explicit. Like I like to like pass in a flag, or maybe just return a promise. Like everybody else does. But yeah, if you put 2 arguments here, then that's how they know. Yeah. Otherwise, it's like, what is that? It's magic. Yeah. Any other questions? No, pretty powerful stuff. Another good example for middleware is if you're doing like real time with WebSockets or anything like that, this is a great place to update all your clients, right? So if one client updates a chat, right, and you need to post that chat message to everybody else's chat, you would do that in something like this, like post save, ping everybody else's chat room with this thing. So it's a great place for stuff like that. Very, very helpful.